Chapter 37-23? The first is here. The sword art in this sword stone is really incredible. I have been enlightened for 400 years, and in terms of rules alone, I have made great progress. I have almost completely mastered the rules of the earth. And in swordplay I have created a trick to protect the earth. In the past 400 years, I have continuously improved it, which is far more powerful than before. Now, if my trick is unfolded, I am afraid that it is an ordinary master. The law is broken. As for the higher master, it is difficult to say whether it can be broken, but obviously there is still a lot of room for improvement in this trick, and I can continue to improve it. Jianghu was extremely excited inside. With 400 years of enlightenment, he is even more anticipating the protection of the earth he created. He was very curious if he had been enlightened in this way and perfected the protection of the earth trick, then what extent would this trick reach? But just then, Lord of the Blood Sword, save your life, come and save me. One of the orders in the sword warriors Jianghu ring sent an extremely anxious cry for help. Sword Wuxia looked and took out the order. Master of Gucci, what's going on? Jian Wuxia asked. It's the pupil. The idiot's master at the other end of Lingfu said, just now I got a top-class domain treasure in a fight, and it's all already in hand and the fight is over. However, when I was about to leave, the pupil came here and asked me to hand over the top-class domain treasure. I refused and Hitomi shot directly at me. Now I can only rely on my whole cards to save my life. I can use Hitomi's strength to break my ranks sooner or later. I see. The sword-free color became dignified. The Star Palace and the three major free alliances have entered the Red Cloud realm this time. These strong are scattered among 7 continents. Among them, the 3rd continent, the 4th continent, and the 6th continent have the existence of 3 swordsmen himself, the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space, so they have long explained that if there is an emergency in these 3 continents, they can be directly contacted. Now the master of the idiot encounters the pupil of the pupil, is in deep crisis, and naturally sends a message to himself. The Lord of the Gucci is one of the top powerhouses in the Star Palace. He has the ultimate strength of the 6 realms, and has a very strong life-saving ability. His strongest hole card is a net fire method. Among the rule masters are me and blood. 2D no one can break open, but he is now encountering the pupil of the pupil. Jian's eyes narrowed. Mr. Hitomi, it is a real master-level powerhouse and it has a long time to become famous. Although it is only a primary master, but the strength is very strong among the primary masters. It is no wonder that the idiot master will ask for help. Already. In fact, under normal circumstances, the dignified dominion will almost never lower his status to deal with the ruler. Unless it is of great interest or there is a treasure in the opponent's eyes. However, the master of the idiot is only a top-level field treasure. Even if it is the best, the value at best is barely equivalent to a peak treasure. For such a treasure, most of them dominate. He will not choose to reduce his status to the ruler. But this pupil is definitely one of the few who do not care about identity in this star field. Hitomi in this star field is notorious. He was a lone strong man without concern, even a disciple, so he never cared about the opinions of others, only knowing that he was his own way, and naturally he never cared about his identity as long as he was the treasure. He liked, not to mention the ruler, even if he is an undead sage, he doesn't mind shooting directly to snatch. Like now, the master of the idiot gets that top-level domain treasure, which may not be enough to make the master of the idiot really hard, but such a treasure is of great value, even the master will not ignore it, so he will now direct shot. Master of the idiot, pass me your current position. Jian Wuxia. The master of the idiot immediately passed his position to Jian Wuxia. After comparing Jian Wuxia on the star map, he immediately made a decision. I'm more than 50 million miles away from your location. It's such a long distance that even if I try my best to get on the road, it will take a while to reach you. Lord of the idiots, you first use your net fire method as much as possible. Burst drag the pupil, waiting for me to come. However, before your arrival your net fire array has reached its limit and can no longer support it, then you will give him the top field class arcana, a top field class arcana. If you see ANT do it, let it go. Don't lose your life for this. Jian Wuxia urged. Yes, I will try my best to drag it. The idiot gritted his teeth. Without any delay, Jian Wuxia left for the position of the master of the idiot. Along the way Jian Wuxia reached his extreme speed. No way, this time he was not trying to fight for the treasure but to save his life. For him, a top-class domain treasure is actually nothing, but the life of the ancient idiot is different. Star Palace, although there are many powerful men in His Majesty, there are not many masters who truly reach the rule of level 6 and above. As for the ultimate level of 6 realms, only 2 masters are considered to be idiots. Naturally, the 2 extreme powers of the 6 realms are of great importance to the horoscope. If one of them falls, it must be a great loss to the horoscope. The third continent within a vast void. Boom boom. Endless pure white flames are burning frantically, covering thousands of miles of void around. This tens of thousands of miles of void are completely caught in the sea of pure white fire, and in the middle of the sea of fire, hey! A fierce roar rang continuously, shaking the world. I think him underestimated you. This ant your flame method is quite strange, even this seat can hardly be broken. Echoes echoed between the heavens and the earth, and there was a towering blood-colored figure standing in the middle of the pure white sea of fire. This figure was filled with a thick cloud of blood. The cloud of blood was rolling, the endless killing breath spread out. This figure is the pupil of the pupil. And not far in front of the pupil of the pupil, in the very center of the pure white sea of fire, the guts of the idiot clenched his teeth tightly, looking rather ugly. Master Tong, I have sent a message to my house master. The house master and the space and time house master will arrive here immediately. If you are smart, then leave quickly or wait for my house master to arrive. The idiot whispered. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3724? Second more. Haha, the master of your house? The pupil is the one who looks at the idiot with a playful expression. Boy, don't you think that this seat has always been alone, without concern? You think that this seat has no knowledge of this star domain information? This seat it is clear that this time the Red Cloud Realm was born. Your lord of the palace did not come to the Red Cloud Realm at all. As for what you said at that time, the emperor of the palace of heaven was now on the 4th continent. How can I get here? Don't say they can't be here at all. Even if they did, what can they do? My pupils have been in this star field for so many years. I'm not even afraid of the higher masters. Will I care about the 2 primary masters of the main palace master, the master of space and time? Really a joke. Boy, I advise you not to struggle anymore. Honestly, give the top-class treasure and the magic circle that you are currently performing to this seat. This seat may spare you a life. Otherwise, wait, this seat breaks this formation, you will die. The words of the pupil make the master of the idiot extremely ugly. He didn't expect this pupil to be so shameless, not only to deal directly with a rule master for his top field class, but now he sees the net fire law that he uses, but he also needs to hand it over go out. This net fire formation is his strongest hole card and his strongest support. This law formation was fortunately obtained when he was smashing in Quicksand Demon Realm many years ago. After so many years of smashing down, this law formation has saved his life more than once. To him, this method is far more important than that of the top field. Now, the pupil asked him to hand in the law circle together? How can it be? He would rather die than pay. Now, he can only hope that the Lord of the Blood Sword will arrive earlier. Although he does not know the true strength of Jian Wushuang from the position of Jian Wushuang in the Shinggong and the attitude of Shen Shinto, the master of space and time, to him, Jian Wushuang is even a little bit worse than the master. Not too much. As long as he arrives and joins hands with himself, it should be possible to block the pupil. Stubbornness. Since you don't pay, let's die. The pupil's voice was cold, the blood cloud of horror rolled, and he blasted away with shocking power toward the pure white sea of fire. The master of the idiot can only rely on this magic array to barely resist, but with the real strength of the pupil when the eruption started, his pressure naturally increased. As time passed, he became more and more difficult to resist, and the net fire array gradually reached the limit it could bear. Damn, the Lord of the Blood Swords, why not come? The face of the idiot's master has been completely twisted. He has now realized that the net of fire is somewhat unsustainable. He can only grit his teeth to continue to resist this, and his heart is praying that Jian Wushuang can come here earlier. However, with a distance of 50 million miles, even if Jian Wushuang rushed at full speed, it would take some time. In the void around this pure white sea of fire, there are many rulers gathered here. Many of these rulers were involved in the previous top-class scramble for the top class, and some were aware of the huge movements here that came here. The masters of these rules stood in the void around the net of fire, and watched the scene ahead. When seeing the master of the idiot being pushed to the limit by Hitomi, many rule masters secretly booed. This idiot's own master is very powerful, and he has a life-saving hole card of the net fire magic array. According to the reason, it is only possible to meet the master, which can almost go sideways, but he didn't expect his luck to be so bad. I met a master who is also a pupil who has no regard for identity. This idiot's master is indeed unlucky. We have a clear idea of Hitomi's temper, but everyone who has followed him has a headache. No way, unless the master of the idiot handed over the top-level domain and his net of fire. He was afraid he would die. The top-class field is okay. Anyway, he just got it. When he is out of luck, he just handed it over. The problem is that the pupil is still interested in his net fire method. Everyone knows this net fire method. The battlefield is the strongest hole card of the Gucci Lord. Would the Gucci Lord surrender such a treasure? That's right, if I were, I wouldn't pay. There are still many rulers. Most of them are sympathetic to the guilty lord, and feel that the guilty lord is unlucky. With the passage of time, those who watched the battle around could clearly feel the lord of the Gucci, and could no longer support it. At this time, the sword is unparalleled. There is still more than 20 million miles away from this void, and it will take a while to arrive. Ah boy, you can't hold it. The wanton laughter resounded in this world, rumbling. The world shook and the endless power burst out, smashing the pure white flames that covered the thousands of miles on the battlefield. The flames were finally carried. Can't stop the impact of that terrible power, and it dissipates directly. The master of the idiot's net fire was defeated by the pupil. Without the hindrance of the net fire method, the strength of the idiot master could not face the pupil. Knowing this, many people around sighed, sighing. Even the master of the idiot smiled horribly, with a hint of despair in his eyes. But when the pupil master was about to slay the ancient idiot master in front of him, a figure did not know when he came to this perimeter of the void. Here it's quite lively. A bit of fun and low laughter sounded in this world. This low laughter caught everyone's attention. Even the pupil, who was about to make a shot, stopped his movements and looked at the person. After seeing clearly the appearance of the person, Hitomi could not help but frown. The comer was a weird old man with a scarlet cape. The old man had a lean face, a hooked nose and small eyes as if the eyes of a mouse, and he was slightly squinting, giving a very shrewd look. He smiled and even made him feel a bit more wicked. The smell of this weird old man is actually not strong, it is obviously only the level of the ruler. But the same rule master Hitomi did not put the idiot master in his eyes at all, but when he saw this strange old man, Hitomi's brow frowned slightly. Ming bone. It's a bone. Among the many rulers of this star domain, he is said to have the most means and the strongest life-saving ability. It turned out to be him? The masters of many rules around the battlefield, after seeing this weird old man, also showed surprise. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3725? The first is here. Wicked bone monster in this star field, famous too great. In the eyes of many powerful people in this star field, if you want to choose the ruler with the strongest strength, it is undoubtedly decided between the Lord of the Blood Sword and the Blood Tooty. But to say that the owner of the most difficult rule, I'm afraid that 99% of people will think of this wicked old man the first time. This wicked bone monster is famous for its many means and is extremely difficult to entangle. He had faced the dominating powerhouse more than once, and even directly faced the high-ranking dominator. The opponent showed his best but still had nothing to do with him. He even dares to directly calculate the master in this star field, and therefore he has offended many masters, but so far he still lives well. Such a person, even if it is only a ruler, even the pupil at this moment, dare not ignore his existence directly. Mingu, what are you doing here? The pupil didn't rush to start but turned to ask. The old man just happened to pass here just to see that you, the supreme master, shot against a ruler regardless of his identity, so he came here to take a look. The bone old man laughed. Just a look? Hitomi's voice was low. I wanted to see it, but after seeing that the person you are dealing with is the master of this idiot, the old man changed his mind again. Mingu, old strange. What do you mean? Hitomi looked pale. This idiot doesn't have much relationship with the old man, but the old man's friendship with the Shingon is not bad, so I can only let the pupil to sell the old man a face. The bone strange smiled. As soon as this word came out, all the people around him were stunned, and even the idiot master himself was extremely surprised. The guilty old man said this, apparently intending to intervene in this matter. Mingu, do you want to sell your face in this seat? You are not the ruler of the rules. Why do you want to sell face in this seat? Tongju sighed. Well, Master Tong, since you don't sell face, let's see if you can kill the old idiot under the old man's eyelids. The bone monster smiled at will, but in the laughter, with an absolute confidence. Hitomi's main gaze was slightly narrowed. The whole world was silent. But suddenly, oh! The streamer flashed and the pupil was already shooting like lightning. The terrifying mastery breath instantly covered and oppressed the master of the idiot, and his speed burst to the extreme. Obviously he intends to ride the ghost and the ghost to the extreme. Then he will kill the idiot master as fast as possible. But at the moment Hitomi took the initiative, the skeletal figure standing on the edge also suddenly moved. He just shook it briefly, but it felt as if it was teleporting, passing directly through the battlefield. Before the pupil of the pupil had appeared in front of the master of the ancient idiot, the wicked figure of the skeletal body blocked in front of him first. Court death. Hitomi's face was cold and his intentions skyrocketed. I saw him holding a red stick with one hand. This stick exuded a very strong sense of destruction, and smashed directly towards the ghost bone monster. The ghostly old man saw this without fear. He waved his hand and saw a cold knife as if it was a world-breaking, straight cut out. After the two collided head-to-head, after all, the pupil was a powerful player with a domineering level, and the power was still far stronger than that of the ghostly bone. The first time this collision broke the blade of light, even with the ghostly bone blamed the whole figure back a few steps. Well, it is worthy of being the master. After the ghostly man stood still, he still had a smile on his face and his breath was not weakened. Mingu, since you are going to make this trip to muddy water, then you will die with the master of the idiot. Hitomi's killing intention skyrocketed. Do you still want to kill the old man? Mingwa laughed with a chuckle. It is not the old man who is arrogant. In this star domain, no one can kill the old man except the top masters. As soon as the voice fell, I saw the ghostly figure of the ghostly bone swaying. In time, there were hundreds of thousands of ghostly figures in the void. Hundreds of thousands of guy bone old monsters are exactly the same in both their demeanor and sentiment. The masters of the many rules watching the battle, covered with the power of the soul for the first time, but couldn't see which one was the true deity of the ghost. Is it a phantom? Ha, it's a little trick. Hitomi snorted coldly and waved his sleeve robe. Immediately, there was a majestic divine power condensing in front of him, turning into a spiky divine power, and he shot in all directions in no time. These divine powers are thorny and dense, and they pass through hundreds of thousands of skull-bone monsters, but there is no slight wave. What? Hitomi's face changed. Isn't his deity in these figures? Instead, he performed hideous techniques? No, if he had performed the concealment technique of concealment, he should not have concealed the power of my soul to detect it. Hitomi stared. The concealed body technique can avoid the exploration of the soul's power. Like the sword Wushuang, he has practiced the Wangshi technique from the beginning. However, this technique is okay in the face of the general strong, but if you face the real strong, the other party can see through at a glance. And the pupil master, the mighty masterclass master, a rule master who has performed the concealment of the body form, cannot hide him. In this case, that is to say that the deity of the ghostly bone is indeed among these hundreds of thousands of statures, but he can't find it and can't attack it. Even if I can't find your deity, my target is not you. Hitomi hummed slightly, followed the figure, and chose to ignore the ghosts and continue to kill the idiot. But his figure just moved. It was said that under the eyelids of the old man, you can't kill this idiot's master, you believe it. With a bit of ridiculous voice suddenly ringing next to Hitomi's body, I saw a bone monster figure closest to Hitomi's body directly waving his sword. The sword immediately cut a horse in the void and swept straight towards Hitomi's head. Hitomi's figure had to retreat immediately and return to the place where he stood before. Looking again at the surrounding hundreds of thousands of gull bone monsters, the pupil's complexion has become very ugly. After a brief fight, although the ghostly bones only expose some of the means, this part of the means has already made Tongzhu very difficult. Just as the old-fashioned ghost bones himself said, without his consent, the pupil of the pupil could not have killed the idiot under his eyelids. Genius, remember the address of this site in a second. Mobile reading URL, M. Chapter 3726? Second more. Strange bones, do you really want to oppose this seat? Hitomi screamed sharply. Him against you? The ghostly moan deliberately groaned for a moment before he said, in fact, the old man does not have to stop you. Hitomi looked. The idiot master not far from the void behind the bonbons was frightened. Master Tong, you may not know yet, my husband has been in this red cloud world for some time, but luck is not very good, but so far I have only got 2 treasures and they are only primary treasures. This is really not a good harvest. Wei-gu said strangely. The pupil's main eyes and his pupils narrowed. He glanced at the ghostly bone and said lowly, what are you going to do? Let's talk straight. It's very simple, a top-level treasure armor, the old man will no longer care about it. The bone monster laughed. As soon as this word came out, there was a commotion in the surrounding void. This wicked bone, he really dares. Dare to greet the pupil and ask for the treasure from the pupil. Among the masters of the rules, I am afraid that he would dare to do this alone. This is also normal. The ghost bone monster is famous for its many means and strong life-saving ability. It is even more difficult to entangle it. If he is unwilling to give way, the pupil of the pupil really has no way to take that ancient idiot. The bone old man has lived for so many years, and there are many offending masters. He doesn't even care about the high master, and how can he care about a pupil in this area? I have to say that a ruler dares to ask for the treasure directly from the master, and this wicked bone monster is indeed admirable. Many of the rulers around have a trace of excitement and admiration in their hearts. It must be noted that the ruler and master of rules is a huge watershed. The masters are high and the ruler is in front of the master, but the ants. The masters of many rules in this star field have long been accustomed to the supremacy of the masters, but today they saw a master who eats in the hands of the master of the rules. Of course, the masters of these rules feel relieved and comfortable. At that moment, the pupil was extremely gloomy. Although sometimes he did not pay attention to his identity and disregard his face, but a master was stunned by a rule. When so many people were asked for the treasure, he was still more or less I feel uncomfortable on my face. He stared at the ghostly ghost, but he hesitated. Face or something is not important, the key is interest. It's nothing more precious than a top-level arcana warframe. The top-level domain arcana that the idiot lord just got is comparable to 2 or even 3 top-level arcana warframes, and his net of fire. Quite mysterious. I am afraid that the value is higher than the average peak treasure. If I kill him, I can get more benefits than a top treasure. The most important thing is, there is something in the idiot lord that makes me long for that treasure. Master Tong narrowed his eyes slightly, and Yu Guang inadvertently glanced at the idiot master behind him. Everyone thought that he would kill the Gucci lord regardless of his status, just to get the top field class treasure of the Gucci lord just in hand, and the net fire magic circle. In fact, it's not that simple. This pupil has a very special treasure on his body. The most important reason is that there is something that the special treasure desires on the lord of the Gucci. Anyway, you must kill this idiot master, get his ring command, and as for a top-level treasure, it is nothing. Hitomi had already made a decision at the bottom of his heart, and immediately he waved his hand, a silver armor with exquisite top treasure atmosphere, and rushed directly to the ghost. The ghost bone monster reached out to take over, and after a little consciousness sensed, he nodded slightly. It's worthy to be the master, and he has an extraordinary wealth. The shot is also very generous. Ming Bone, the top arcana warframe has been given to you. Now you can let it go? Hitomi asked Xinxing. Not in a hurry. The bone monster still shook his head. Ming Bone. Hitomi suddenly became furious. Haha, don't be in a hurry before you anger. The old bone ghost smiled. Since you have given the top treasure to the old man will naturally keep his promise and stop participating in this matter. I haven't anxious to leave, I just want to ask the pupil, you are so reckless of your identity, even give the old man a top arcane battle armor, but also to kill the Gucci master. Is it really just for the Gucci master which top-tier domain is precious? Well, a single piece of the top-level arcane warframe is naturally not worthy of this seat, but the magic circle that the idiot lord used to hinder me is quite special. This seat is more interesting. Hitomi Main Road. Oh, is that really the case? Minggu looked strangely at Tongzhu. Otherwise, do you think? Hitomi suppressed the anger in his heart. The ghostly brow frowned and didn't think about it. In fact, there is nothing to think about. The pupil is not famous for his identity in this star field. He will stare at the master of the idiot, and it is normal to want the treasure in the hand of the master of the idiot. It is not questionable. That being the case, I will let the old man out now and you can do whatever you want, but although the old man has given up, if you can't kill the idiot in the future, it is no wonder the old man. Bone monsters play with taste. Well, as long as you don't get in the way, this one is going to kill this idiot master, then no one can stop it. Hitomi hummed. Is that so? Not necessarily. The skeletal grinned, and the strength of his soul had sensed the arrival of a person. The master of the idiot behind the wicked bone monster has also received a message, and his face has a hint of surprise. In the void not far away, a figure had appeared and rushed towards this void at the fastest speed. The guilty monster has just made his appearance, and the pupil has no time to continue to attack the master of the idiot. The figure has come to the center of this void and stands on the side of the master of the idiot. Master of the idiot, are you okay? Jian Wushuang asked. It's all right, fortunately Mr. Mingu shot in time and blocked the pupil for a while, otherwise I must have died and could not wait. The Lord of the Blood Sword is here. The idiot said. Jian Wu's eyes swept away, and he saw the old ghost of the ghost bone, and immediately laughed. Senior Ghost Bone, thank you this time. Where, the old man is just to get a top Arcana Warframe, but it's not because of you and the faces of your star palace. The Bone old man laughed. The people around them were excited again when they saw Jian Wushuang's arrival. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3727? The first is here. The Lord of the Blood Sword is the Lord of the Blood Sword of the Star Palace. The Lord of the Blood Sword, but the strongest of the rulers in our star domain. I heard that he was also smashing on this third continent. Now it seems that he should have received a call from the Lord of the Idiots for help. I came here on purpose. The Lord of the Blood Sword is here. It's a good show, but can the Blood Sword Master alone be able to cope with the pupil? It's hard to say that although the Lord of the Blood Sword is very strong and invincible among the Lord of the Rules, he doesn't have the endless means like the ghosts and bones. He just wants him to face a master. The rulers of the many rules watching around are talking about it. The masters of these rules, the impression of Jian Wushuang, still stays more than 10,000 years ago, in the Magic Smoke Valley, Jian Wushuang's own power to defeat the 5 rule masters in the battle. In that battle, although Jian Wushuang showed the invincible strength of the ruler of the rule, compared to the master, it is still 2 different levels. Therefore, most people are full of doubts about whether Jian Wushuang can cope with the pupil. Men Bone, well, revisit the old one later, let me kill the pupil first. Jian Wushuang laughed aloud. Okay, but this pupil is not weak, you have to be careful. The Bone old man smiled lightly. Jian Wushuang is a very relaxed look. As for the pupil, when he saw the sword Wushuang coming, he didn't know why he was stuck there. Yes, he did hold back. The reason for this is that he was not surprised by the sudden arrival of Sword Unparalleled, but because of the state of that special treasure at his moment. I don't know why, when the sword Wushuang arrived and appeared in the void in front of him, the special treasure on him was completely crazy. It was an unprecedented excitement and an unprecedented desire. It was like a wolf that had been hungry for 10 days and 10 nights, and suddenly saw a sheep. The treasure on him was now so hot and crazy. What happened? What is there on the Lord of the Blood Sword, which will make my treasure so exciting and crazy? It's crazy, ever since I got that treasure I have never seen it so excited and eager. The pupil's gaze became extremely hot instantly. But it was so hot that he soon covered it up. Above the emptiness, the ghostly ghost has led to the emptiness next to it, leaving only the sword master, the idiot master and the pupil master standing there. Jian Wushuang naturally stood with the master of the idiot. The Lord of the Blood Sword, the strength of this pupil is really terrible. It is definitely the strongest among the primary masters. My strongest card net fire team has also been broken by him now. The law is working again and at his speed, it is difficult for me and two to escape directly from him. So, I'm afraid you can only join hands and find a way to deal with him 1 or 2 times, said the idiot. Unable to perform the net fire method, the master of the idiot must not be able to deal with the pupil. But he knows that the Lord of the Blood Sword is very strong, and there must be some vitality for the two to join forces. But after hearing his words, Jian Wushuang waved his hand. Master of the idiot, please step back, this pupil, just leave it to me. Leave it to you alone? The Lord of the idiot stumbled. I am enough. Jian Wushuang was very confident. Get back. The idiot's gaze was slightly fixed. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and did not think much, but swept away in the void behind him. Seeing this, Hitomi didn't mean to stop at all. After Jian Wushuang came to this void, Master Tong now only saw Jian Wushuang in his eyes. As for the idiot master, he didn't care. Even if the master of the idiot turned and fled now, he would not chase again. For him, Sword Unparalleled is the first goal now. The Lord of the Blood Sword, the strongest ruler in this field of universally recognized rules. Master Hitomi grinned. He glanced at the idiot lord in the back and his face smiled even more. It's time to deal with this seat, it's really arrogant. Arrogance? Jian Wushuang only smiled slightly, but there was a hint of excitement in his heart. No wonder he was excited. You must know that since he broke through the rules of the rule in his strength sword, he has never really competed fairly with the dominant power. Although he played against Tianping's master and Tianzu, he even beheaded and killed 3 masters in the early world of God. However, Tianping dominated that time, he just passively blocked Tianping dominated 3 attacks. Tianzu, it was just a simple discussion with him so that he has a basic understanding of his strength. As for the 3 masters that were beheaded in the early divine realm, those 3 masters were restricted by the heavens and could not exert their strength at all. So even now he has never fought against a master who can burst into full force. Until now the pupil was standing in front of him. Hitomi, the strength of this star field is an elementary master standing at the top. Jian Wushuang's mind flashed the information of this pupil. The pupil is not only strong, but also has many treasures on his body. It is said that he not only has the strongest treasure warrior, but also has the strongest treasure war armor on him. In addition, his ability to save lives is not weak. Even if he encounters a high master, he cannot be afraid. Such a powerful master for Jian Wushuang is just a suitable opponent. This is the first time I have battled with a dominating powerhouse in the universe battlefield, and there are still so many people watching around. This battle, I took the pupil to stand up. The sword flashed in the eyes of Wushuang, and even when he screamed, "Hitomi, hand over 3 peak treasures and stop doing today's things, otherwise my blood sword will be chasing you to the end of the earth." This path contains a huge burst of mighty power, and it exploded fiercely between heaven and earth. The void was quiet. Silence. Everyone was silent, with their eyes widened, staring at Jian Wushuang. They just said that the Lord of the Blood Sword and the Lord of the Guqi teamed up. I do and know if hope to block that pupil. But who would have thought that the arrival of the Lord of the Blood Swords would instead force Do Tong to surrender 3 peaks to the treasure? Hasn't he figured out the situation on the court? Even the owner of the idiot is extremely confused at this moment for unknown reasons. Boy, so daring. Hitomi smiled angrily and her entire face was twisted. He didn't have any other nonsense, so he just shot. Dear, click in and give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that a beautiful wife was found at the end of the new score. Chapter 37:28. Second more. Banging. The magnificent power of the dominating level formed a huge prison, and the overwhelming assault swords came in oppression. As mighty as prison. Reaching the level of dominance, the power of the divine power alone is infinitely stronger than the main rule. Under normal circumstances, the mastery of the level of divine oppression, the rule of the general rule cannot bear. Under the pressure of this majestic power, that pupil stepped suddenly across the void to the front of Jian Wushuang, the red stick in his hand, carrying the breath of destruction, and smashed directly. The terrifying power that it contains has caused a ripple of space in the void of the red cloud realm. These spaces ripple together, spreading wildly around. The sword is unparalleled. An extremely cold and terrifying sword intention swept the world instantly. The great void was caught in the coldness of zero because of the scabbard. The chill was like a knife. Even at a long distance, it still shaved on the faces of those rulers present. That sword. The eyes of everyone watching the battle were instantly frozen in the sword without hands exuding a cold, heart-wrenching black Excalibur. That black magic sword is exactly the Huangquan magic sword. The strongest cosmic treasure. The Lord of the Blood Sword has the strongest treasure. The surrounding void immediately caused a commotion. The strongest treasures, even if they dominate, many are not. But the ruler of Sword Wushuang district has the strongest magic sword in his hand, which was not expected by everyone present. Even the pupil of the pupil was surprised when he saw the magic sword that Sword Master Shou took out. Although surprised, but the pupil master still did not put Jian Wushuang in his eyes. Well, what if there is the strongest cosmic treasure? It's still just an ant. Hitomi's eyes flashed sharply, and the smashed red stick made a shock, and the power suddenly rose again. Endless. Jian Wushuang directly out of the sword, a sword light with endless hatred, instantly greeted the red stick. This sword light not only contains horrible power, but also carries a trace of the origin of the Kendo universe, which makes the power of swordsmanship to a whole new level instantly. Clang. The two collided head-on, and an arc flashed away instantly. What? There was a hint of surprise on Hitomi's face. From the sword light displayed by Jian Wushuang, he felt an extremely arrogant, not even weaker than his strength. Ha! The pupil's figure immediately regressed, and Jian's stature also regressed. Humph! After standing still, Hitomi's gaze was cold again. He held the stick in his hands at the same time, destroying the burst of breath, and the blood cloud of the whole body suddenly soared to the extreme. The breath of his entire body is a bit higher than just before, his body is shaking, and he is once again killing swordsmen. Sword as rainbow. Jian Wushuang held the sword alone. Jian Feng pointed directly at the pupil, and did not mean to retreat, so he greeted him positively. Clang, clang, ha. Only one heavy clash was heard, and the sound of Vane's crazy collision continued to sound. In the middle of the battlefield, the two figures clamored frantically, and the terrible mighty power ran away frantically. The fierce battle between the two is obviously in the stage of fierce heat. The masters of the many rules watching the surroundings have long been stunned. Domination battle, this is level battle. The Lord of the Blood Sword, how could he resist the Lord? How can that be? Exclaiming sounds continued to sound in the surrounding void. Unlike the old-fashioned ghost bones who rely on special means to entangle with their living together, the sword in front of them is unparalleled, but they are fighting fiercely with the pupil. A ruler collided head-on with a master, but also a master with a very strong power, and they even fought against each other? Dominate the combat power. The Lord of the Blood Sword already has the power to dominate. Everyone knew it immediately. If you can fight with a very powerful master, you will be in the rank of master. Boom. It was another fierce roar, and the two figures in the void finally separated. The Lord of the Blood Sword, this seat despises you. I didn't expect a ruler of yours to have mastery of combat power. Hitomi's eyes were already bloodshot, with a hint of madness. But even then, you are not qualified to be mad in front of this seat. Stolen. Hitomi kills the sky. At the moment of his body scrabbling, the large cloud of blood that pervaded his body was actually a frenzy, and in the blink of an eye, a majestic three-headed demon formed. The three demon gods also held red sticks, and as Hitomi's hands moved, they were crushed and bombarded directly. The same stick method, but at the moment when these three deities are condensed, this stick power is at least twice as strong as before. Is this your real strength? Jian Wushuang's mouth slightly tilted, and there was no surprise in his heart. Hitomi, who can make such a big name in this star field, of course his strength is not just that. Unfortunately, such strength is not enough. Jian Wushuang's eyes condense, the magical power of life, the sky cut, immediately unfolded. These two mysteries are performed at the same time, and the magic power of the sword unparalleled has increased by 3 times. More than 3 times the divine power of the primary master. This has barely reached the threshold of the higher master. Kill? Jian Wushuang has no fear, relying on mysterious skills to greatly improve his own strength, once again fight with the living together. The two battled madly again, and Jian Wushuang's understanding of the origin of Kendo universe was fully exerted. Each sword that was cast contained the origin of Kendo universe. That sword art was extremely mysterious and mighty. Although the pupil's stick technique is also strong, he has not realized the origin of the universe, and is obviously inferior to Jian Wushuang's sword skill in the mystery. As for the power, although he has performed mystery and the power has increased a lot, it is at best comparable to Jian Wushuang. The power is comparable, but Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship occupies a great advantage, so the pupil is actually in a disadvantage. How could this be? In the crazy battle with Jian Wushuang, the pupil is now horrified and unbelievable. I have already shown my strongest strength, and I can't even win him, even. I still underwind? How can that be? How can the strength be such a master of rules? The pupil is completely frightened by Jian Wushuang's revealed strength. Not just him, the rulers of the many rules watching the battle around, are also at a loss at this moment. Remember the first domain name in this book. 3 heads of mobile version reading URL, M. Chapter 3729? The first is here. No one at the scene had thought that the Lord of the Blood Sword, who was just the master of the rule, could not only fight with Hitomi directly, but even if Hitomi broke out with all his strength, the master of the Blood Sword still had the upper hand with his fight. It is no longer possible that the Lord of the Blood Sword has the dominance level of combat power, but his combat power has surpassed that of most elementary masters. Even the top of the class of primary masters such as Hitomi, the battle power is obviously worse than that of the Blood Sword master. Lord. Master Tong, this is your strongest strength? Jian Wu's eyes were cold and staring at Master Tong. Ha, dare to deceive me without a star at this level? Honestly, hand over 3 peak treasures, otherwise I want you to look good today. Presumptuous. Hitomi was furious. But no matter how furious he is at the moment, Jian Wushuang's revealed strength is indeed slightly stronger than him. Suddenly, Hitomi slammed and said coldly, "Boy, this place admits to look down on you and also look down on your star house. I didn't expect that a monster like you appeared in this star house. It is only the master of the rules. But the combat power is stronger than the average master. However, just this, you want this seat to bow your head and ask this seat to surrender 3 peaks to the Polaris in vain, but it is a dream. Even if you are a little stronger than this one now, just a little stronger, how can you take this one? Hitomi has no fear. He admits that Jian Wushuang is slightly stronger than him. But just being a little stronger, just a little upper hand in the fierce battle, cannot even suppress him. How will he be afraid? Don't change your head, right? Then hit you down. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold and I saw him step out. On the Huangquan Excalibur in his hand, a terror of mighty power suddenly condensed. Wow! A sword is cut out and the void is completely chaotic. There was no roar or explosive sound, and the sword that Wu Shuangshuang cut out at this moment did not seem to have such terrible power. Of course. The magic sword fell, but an icy sword light directly cut the space relentlessly, ruthlessly tore everything in front, and cut it relentlessly towards the pupil of the pupil. Swordplay Huangquan. Under a sword the blue falls. This sword was the shocking sword technique that forcibly broke the sword system of Emperor 13 during the battle with Emperor 13. This sword art is not only terrible but most importantly, there is a breath of cosmic law in the sword art. That breath of cosmic law was very weak at first, just a trace of it, but after Jian Wushuang's full enlightenment under Zhenshinbai for 5,000 years, he cast this sword again, and the cosmic law contained in the sword art the breath is obviously richer than before. The power of swordsmanship and Xuanao are completely stronger than before. There is more to the origin of Kendo universe in sword art alone. This sword can no longer be measured by a specific peerless level, but there is no doubt that this sword is the strongest sword of the sword unparalleled. The strongest sword was cut directly to the pupil, and at the same time it was cut, the sword Wushuang also used the will power given by the original universe law. The will power given by the rules of the universe is unique. It can double the base power of Jian Wushuang's full-blown outburst. In other words, before Jian Wushuang used the magical power of life plus the operation after cutting the sky, the power of the outbreak of divine power was 3 times the power of the primary dominator, and now using this will power, that is 6 times the power of the primary master. 6 times, how amazing. Boom. The terrifying Jingguang tears everything relentlessly. The pupil also seemed to be aware of the extraordinary sword Jinshuang's sword, and his gaze was condensed. Then he held the red long stick with both hands at the same time, and the 3-headed demon behind him issued a scream of a scream, followed the long stick zoomed in loudly rumbling. Straight out. In the blink of an eye, it collided with the sword light directly. Clang. The sound of a metal impact sounded, and the moment the red stick was in contact with Jingguang, the shocking power contained in Jingguang immediately changed the direction of shock, and the whole body of the pupil was unstable. The ruthless, tortured sword light continued to cut at the pupil. In the end, there was no hindrance on the body of the pupil. Puff. A large mouthful of blood spurted out from the pupil's main mouth, and this blood stained his body armor. Hitomi's face paled a little, and his figure was extremely embarrassing and hurled backwards. This scene dazzled the owners of the many rules watching the battle around. Spit bleed? Daughter pupil, fight with the Lord of the Blood Sword in the face, but was spit by the sword of the blood sword? He didn't succeed in sneak attack, it was a frontal fight, defeating Hitomi's offensive, and then spitting Hitomi's blood. The many rulers present were almost unable to believe their eyes. No way, this scene is too incredible. The difference between the ruler and the ruler is too wide. It is recognized that all ants are under the ruler. But the scene before it completely broke common sense. The Lord of the Rules can also be comparable to or even overcome the Lord. Didn't see now that the pupil of the pupil was vomiting blood by the sword of the blood sword? At this moment, the pupil of the pupil was also stunned. How could he be forced to do this? Hitomi stared at Jian Wushuang in horror. Others don't know his strength and whole cards, but he knows it well. After performing mysticism, after appearing 3 demon gods all over his body, his strength can even fight with the High Master in a short time. This strength, the strongest stick, was completely crushed by the opponent. Even when the opponent defeated his offensive, he also spit blood. Although, for the dignified master, it is okay to spit 2 mouths, and the loss of divine power is not too great, but this means that Yu Wei of Jian Wushuang's sword has hurt him. Bad my offensive, he can still hurt me with the power of his sword? Hitomi's heart set off a huge wave. What he wears is the strongest arcane warframe. He has the strongest armor of the treasure armor, but he was still injured by Yu Wei, the sword of Jian Wushuang. What does this mean? Explain that Jian Wushuang's power of that sword just now is incredible. The High Master, even among the High Masters, only the top ones are able to perform such a mighty attack. The Lord of the Blood Sword, his combat power is much stronger than the ordinary High Masters. Hitomi's heart finally began to tremble. Genius, remember the address of this site in a second. Mobile reading URL, M. Chapter 3730? Second more. Hitomi has been in the 3 battlefields for so many years. He is the master and he has faced many times. But relying on his own strength and his strongest treasure, the high masters couldn't help him, and it was difficult to hurt him. But Jian Wushuang just had that sword, so that Master Tong understands that Jian Wushuang's strongest combat power is definitely more than most advanced masters. Only the top talents and advanced masters can burst out of that kind of power to defeat him. At the same time as the offensive, he was injured through the strongest treasure. Such strength is enough to make Tong Zuxin's heart afraid. Unlike the pupil Zhu and the shock in the hearts of everyone present, Jian Wushuang saw his pupil vomiting blood, but his frown was slightly frowned. He didn't expect that he showed the strongest strength and showed the strongest sword, but the result was just barely letting the pupil to vomit blood, and it did not let the pupil to lose much power. The strongest treasure battle gear, it is unusually peak. The treasure warframe can be compared. Jian Wushuang secretly said. He knew that if the pupil had no strongest armor, but only the highest peak armor, then the sword he had just cast with the Huangquan Excalibur would definitely cause him to be severely wounded. 10% or 20% of the divine power, but the divine power of the pupil is now very small. There is the strongest armor of the treasure warrior, and I alone can't kill him. Jian Wushuang understood this but followed with a cold hum. Even if he can't kill, he must be taught fiercely. The sword has no double-sided capacity and is cold, carrying the mighty power, and shot again. To this pupil Jian Wushuang has a trace of disgust. As the master, he doesn't care about his own identity, and in this area of the star he arbitrarily shoots against the ruler, even without reason. People who are totally disregarded for their looks will be spurned. What's more, this pupil is not the first time to provoke the Star Palace. Jian Wushuang has seen the information before. This pupil has made several shots against the strong men of the Star Palace in the 3 battlefields over the years. The Xingong planted a follow-up once and paid a great price. It's just that because this pupil is strong and has the strongest treasure armor, Star Palace has always been unable to take him. He can only be angry and dare not speak, but he does not want this pupil to become stronger. This time in the Red Cloud Realm, he also stared at the Master of the Idiot, and almost made the 2 of the Xingong 6 extremes, losing one. So again and again to oppress Xingong, Jian Wushuang now has the ability, of course, to give this pupil a profound lesson. Even if he can't kill him, at least it is necessary for Master Tong to remember this lesson. In the future in the Red Cloud Realm, including when fighting in the 3 major battlefields, when he meets the strong man in his star house, he will have a little bit of scruples and dare wanton killer. Jian Wushuang broke out with all his strength. Although he had been fighting with Hitomi before, he never used the willpower given by the laws of the universe, nor did he fully exert his sword skills. But now, the sword unparalleled under full force, the displayed combat power can only be described as sturdy or terrible. His divine power is powerful. His sword art is extremely mysterious, and the origin of Kendo universe in each sword is extremely strong. Although the pupil also burst out with all his strength, he fought against Jian Wushuang, but was completely crushed by Jian Wushuang. One side. Anyone with a good eye can see that Hitomi is not Jian Shuang's opponent at all. It's too strong, he's too powerful. His divine power is definitely higher level dominance. It is stronger than ordinary high-level dominions and much stronger than me. His swordsmanship is even more terrifying. His understanding of Kendo is much higher than all the Kendo strongmen I have seen. The origin of Kendo, yes, he has entered the origin of Kendo universe and every sword he cast. They all contain the rich origins of Kendo universe. When the swordplay is performed, it is not only extremely powerful but also extremely mysterious, which is not comparable to me at all. Perseverance is comparable to the divine power of a higher master. In addition, in his opinion, even the top master may not be comparable to the Kendo understanding of Jian Wushuang. This has created Jian Wushuang's terrible strength. This strength, in the higher among the masters, it is definitely the best. The pupil is totally unable to compete. It is better to go first. After a short fight, Hitomi was completely scared by Jian Wushuang's strength. Naturally, he had no intention of continuing to fight against Jian Wushuang. Although there is something in Jian Wushuang's body that makes him extremely crazy for special treasures, this thing with his current strength must not be available to him. He had to leave first and then think of something else. The pupil master wanted to leave, but Jian Wushuang did not intend to let him go. Magic Sand Realm. With a big wave of the sword, the endless black mad sand rolled up frantically, and in the blink of an eye, a huge black sand sea formed, covering the entire sky and the void. The body of that pupil is also covered by this black sand sea. Domina category treasure? Look at this breath, it is the peak domain category treasure. Hitomi was surprised. Realm class treasures, among many treasures of the same level, are even extremely precious. And the peak value of the field category arcana, even if compared with the strongest arcana, the value is not too much. Although he is the master and because of some special reasons he has accumulated 2 years of strongest treasures, one for attacking, and one of the strongest treasures for the accumulation of long years. Oh. Unexpectedly, the master of this rule, Jian Wushuang, not only has the strongest attacking soldiers, but also has the highest level of treasure in his hands? The pupil master does not know, although Jian Wushuang is the rule master, this is not false, but at the beginning of the world he beheaded and killed 3 masters, and those 3 masters came from the second-level astral magic cloud star. The net worth is extraordinary. This top-level domain is the treasure that Jian Wushuang obtained from one of the masters. It is a ring named Masha Ring. Jian Wushuang has recognized the Masha Ring long ago. When Shur unfolded, a huge magic sand ocean formed instantly, oppressing everything. The pupil was trapped in the sea of magic sand, and was greatly suppressed at the first time. His body speed was greatly weakened, and his overall strength was suppressed a lot. The Lord of the Blood Sword, this seed is about to leave. You must not deceive people too much. Tong Tong felt annoyed when he noticed that the surrounding magic sand ocean was suppressing himself. Too much bullying? Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. I already said, don't surrender the 3 peak jewels for reparations, you just leave it so simple. End of this chapter. Chapter 37-31? The first is here. Kill? Relying on the oppression of Hitomi in the realm of magic sand, Jian Wushuang came to Hitomi again. The fierce Jingguang with unstoppable momentum continued to crush towards Hitomi. The pupil can only resist reluctantly, but it is more and more difficult. Under the suppression of the magic sand field, it is obviously impossible for him to leave from the front of the sword without 2 sides by normal means. The Lord of the Blood Sword, this time you counted you as fierce, this seat will remember you. Hitomi shouted with gritted teeth, followed by a sudden burst of blood and blood on him. Bang rong. The main body of Hitomi is agitated and the volume is larger than before, but the breath of divine power emanating from him is obviously weakened. Call out. A burst of blood flashed out abruptly, leaving a shadow of blood in the void. The main figure of Hitomi rushed out of the area covered by this magic sand field, and soon disappeared into the sight of Jian Wushuang. Have you escaped? Jian Wu's eyes flickered a little but not surprised. He is very clear that his strength reaches the level of Hitomi, and it is completely impossible to kill him alone, and Hitomi is wantonly in this star field for so many years, the number of offending powers is countless, but he arrives they are still alive and well, naturally they have life-saving cards. Just now, the pupil is obviously performing a life-saving mystery, and this time he left directly. It's not bad to be able to force him to perform life-saving secrets. Jian Wushuang smiled. And the masters of the many rules watching the surroundings saw the pupils turn into blood and left, and they all booed. Escape, Hitomi, he even managed to escape by using his life-saving technique? Well, domineering but also a very powerful master, but facing a ruler today he can only use life-saving techniques to escape? This is too ridiculous. Indeed, in this battle Hitomi has really lost his face. As for the master of the blood sword, he has crushed Hitomi positively in a state of rule, and forced Hitomi to use only life-saving techniques to escape. The record is enough to be proud of this star field. From today, I am afraid that the reputation of the Lord of the Blood Sword will reach a new peak. Around the battlefield, the eyes of many rulers were staring at Jian Wushuang tightly. In that look, in addition to shock and awe, there was even a touch of worship. You know, they are all rulers. It's respectful to see the Lord on weekdays, but the dignified Lord that the Lord of the Blood Sword can fight can only use life-saving secrets to escape. How can we not let these rulers worship? In the middle of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang has taken Huang Quan's Excalibur back to the scabbard, and the Ghost of the Bones and the Idiot have also come to Jian Wushuang. Haha, Giantianho, you can really surprise my husband today. The ghostly ghost has a hearty smile on his face, his tiny eyes narrowed slightly, and a strange color flickered. Although the husband is also a rule lord, but in the face of the master, you can only rely on some special means to protect yourself, and a master you can kill can only use the life-saving mystery to escape. Oh, terrific, terrific. Even if it's a ghost, I can't help but praise it. Mingus' predecessor is polite. In fact, my strength is not much stronger than that of the pupil. He has the strongest armor of the treasure. Even if he does not escape, he will stay and fight with me. I can't kill him." Jian Wushuang laughed. "That's the story, but you're still amazing," Gu Guaiguai said. "Yes, a ruler can do this step. I'm afraid that in the history of this star field, you are the first person in the Blood Sword Master." The idiot master couldn't help it. The first person in history? Jian Wushuang shook his head. Others don't know, but he is very clear. His master Xin Yi, when he was the ruler of the rule, relied on the town monument. The combat power was comparable to the top master. However, his current combat power is still relatively strong among the higher masters, but it is still far worse than the top masters. Minggu, thank you for your shot this time. If you did stop your pupil for a while, I am afraid that the idiot master has already died in the pupil's hands. When I arrive, the pupil may be too early. I got the treasure and left. Jian Wushuangdo. Haha, it's just a hand-raising work, not enough to talk about, not to mention that the old man also got a top-tier treasure armor from the master of that pupil, which can be considered a small gain. The bone monster laughed casually. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Jian Wushuang also knows something about the old bones. Although he is not a person in the Xingong Palace, he is from the early world of God. And he also knew the ultimate secrets of the divine realm in the beginning of the early days, so the Wraith and the Sword Palace and the Sword Unparalleled themselves are naturally in the same camp. Because of this, in the early world of the gods, the ghostly monsters will help this time and again. This time in the Red Cloud realm, the ghost bone monster saw the threat of the idiot of the Xingong Palace, and also directly assisted. By the way, Senior Soul Bone, are you alone in this Red Cloud world? What about the Meteorite King? Jian Wushuang asked. The Meteorite King is the master that Jian Wushuang saw in the early world of the gods. He is a friend of the old bones and has a relationship with Jian Wushuang. Meteorite has also come to the Red Cloud realm, but you also know that there are 7 continents in the Red Cloud realm. Although the old man and him entered the Red Cloud realm at the same time, they have already dispersed. He is now on the first continent. Vandalism, the old man is in this 3rd continent. Wu Guwei strange. Is that so? Sword Unparalleled. Jian Tianho, do you think that the pupil's behavior this time is a little weird? The ghost bone monster suddenly asked. Strange? Jian Wushuang frowned and said subconsciously, in this star field, Master Tong is a well-known faceless and unreasonable person. He is only profitable, and he sees that the master of the idiot has got a top realm category treasure. Heart rises greedily and rushes to snatch, which does not seem to be wrong. In the years that Master Tong has been in the 3 major battlefields, because there are many examples of treasures shooting against the ruler, his shots against the master of the idiot this time seem to be normal. The old man just thought that when he gave me the top Arcana Warframe it was a bit more refreshing, but it may also be because he liked the clean fire array of the idiot master, so he handed over one so easily. Top Arcana Warframe. The ghost bones also think that they may have thought more, and they have not continued to struggle with this problem. Jian Tianho, when the incident is over, the old man will leave. The ghostly bone monster soon left with Jian Wushuang. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3732? Second more. After the ghost bones left, the battlefield void left only the 2 masters, Jian Wushuang and Guqi. Guqi, thank the Lord of the Blood Sword for his life-saving grace. You are the master of the rules of my star house, and I should save you. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, but the master of the idiot, this time because I'm not too far away from you, and coupled with the seniors of the bones shot midway, you will be able to support me to come, but if I encounter such a crisis next time, I may not be able to catch up. So you must be careful when you are in the Red Cloud realm in the future. After all, there are a lot of masters here. Although you have the ultimate combat power of the 6 realms and the protection of the net of fire, but the master level, if the strongest of them can shoot with all their strength, they can still kill you. If you die, my star palace will go to 1 or 6 realms of extreme combat power, which is a trivial loss. I understand. The master of Guqi focused his head. He was a little too confident in the beginning, to be precise, to underestimate him. He thought that he had the guard of the pure fire method. Even if the master level strong shot himself, he might not be able to kill him, so before the pupil arrived and asked him to hand over the top realm of treasure, he was out of selfishness, unwilling to surrender. But he almost died. And if he honestly handed over the top field class treasure from the beginning, it may not be the next thing. Of course, this is also because they don't know the real intention of the pupil. In short, everything is important. Supreme treasure is important, but your life is worth more than precious treasure. Jian Wushuang urged again before leaving. The sword Wushuang has gone, and the rulers who have been around the battlefield have also dispersed. Immediately after dispersing, the rulers of these rules immediately informed the forces, astral planes, or friends of each other of the battle they had just seen. 10 to 10, 100 to 10. Not long after, many powerful people in the star domain all know the shocking world war. For a time, countless strong people in this star field shook it. No way, this battle is too amazing. Can even be said that it was a bit strange. Who is Hitomi? That is the vertical and horizontal star field, which has caused many powerful people to suffer. It can be said that the super character has been running in this star field. His strength cannot be said to be too strong among the masters. After all, he cannot be said to be a true higher master, but the key is that he has many treasures and means. He has the strongest attacking soldier of the treasure, and the strongest armor of the strongest treasure. This alone is destined that the high master can't help him. There were more than one high-level masters who had shot not to kill him, but just to give him a lesson, but those high-level masters could not do it. Because even a high master can hardly hurt him. Only the top masters are eligible to let the pupils bow their heads, but only just bow their heads. If the top master comes to kill him personally, he may not be able to kill him. And this is a superhero. This time he has planted a big heel. Planted in the hands of Jian Wushuang, the ruler of every rule. The dignified pupil hit the front and was completely crushed by Jian Wushuang, even under Jian Wushuang's one sword. While defeating the main attack of Tong, he also vomited blood. In the end, the pupil was forced to use his life-saving mystery to escape. What strength is this? High Master, the Lord of the Blood Sword, at least has the power of the High Master. The High Master is sure, and it seems that his combat power is very strong even among the High Masters. It belongs to the top group, and only then can he fight the strongest treasure of the front. The pupil of the Protector vomits blood. The Lord of the Blood Sword, what is going on? Isn't he the Lord of the Rules? How could the power be so terrible? He is indeed still the main level of rules. There is no doubt that as to why he is so strong, it is unknown, but not surprisingly, it may be related to his special opportunity in life and death. Yes, the Lord of the Blood Sword was originally not very famous, and the strength of the Lord of the Rules was not very strong, but because he had stayed in the territory of life and death for nearly 100,000 years, he came out as himself. The force directly defeated the 5 strongest players in the 6 realms, and became the strongest among the masters of the rules of the astral domain, but now it has not passed for more than 10,000 years, and his combat power has even surpassed the High Master. No doubt, he must have gotten an incredible chance in that life and death. The question is, what did he get in life and death? Who knows? After all, after this war, I can no longer treat the Lord of the Blood Sword as the ruler of the rule. He must be treated as the master, even the higher master. In this star field, countless strong people were shaken by the amazing strength revealed by Jian Wushuang. Countless strong people have fallen into sensation because of Jian Wushuang's record. Countless strong men are madly discussing this matter, discussing Jian Wushuang. The name of the Lord of the Blood Swords, after another 10,000 years, smashed the entire star field again. The difference is that his record this time is far more brilliant than last time, and the sensation caused by it is naturally greater. Within the red clouds. Ah, Jian Tianho, congratulations, this time you are really famous for this star field. The Celestial Alliance master laughed and passed over the news. Heavenly friend, he has long been famous in the star field, but this time he made a bigger movement and a bigger sensation. A ruler, but the pupil who killed it fled his head and fled. Now this star field, I am afraid that all the masters of you already know that you exist, and they will remember you, and they will never dare to treat you in the future. No, I was a strong master in the 3 major battlefields before novel, and will now deliberately call me to ask about you. The Master of Time and Space also preached. Received a message from the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space. Jian Wushuang only smiled slightly. He knew that since he had shot it, it would inevitably cause a lot of movement in this star field. He had already been mentally prepared for this. Unfortunately, I originally planned to wait until the next time the strongest arcana shot was taken, and then tried my best to fight for it. This might allow me to take advantage of it and also beat those who had robbed me of arcana. I was caught off guard. A pupil, my strength was exposed in advance. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly, but he didn't care too much. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 37-33? The first is here. When it is exposed, it is exposed. It is nothing more than a loss of some opportunities. It is not a big deal. The only thing that is more regrettable is that although I have made Mr. Hitomi a follower this time, what I have said is that I lost only some faces and a top-level treasure. This loss is not much to Mr. Hitomi. It is not enough to make the pupil really distressed, and it is estimated that he will not have much fear. And if this time did not make Mr. Hitomi afraid of him, then Mr. Hitomi will inevitably not wait for the opportunity to take revenge. Although Jian Wushuang himself would not care about Hitomi's revenge, Xinggong cares. Shaking his head, Jian Wushuang did not think about it. Tianhou Xiaoyu, do you still plan to go to that sword stone to enlighten you? The Lord of Time and Space asked suddenly. Well? Jian Wushuang nodded. The sword art contained in that sword stone is extremely exquisite, but my help is very great. That being the case, then you can continue to enlighten you, and if the strongest treasure in the Red Cloud realm is born, we will send you a message to inform you. Okay. Jian Wushuang answered. It didn't take long for Jian Wushuang to return to Jianshi again. Because he left before, the position that originally belonged to him closest to the sword stone was already occupied by others, but Jian Wushuang's strength was placed there. As soon as he showed up, the other party immediately obeyed, and Jian Wushuang sat down in front of the sword. And then continued to fall into the enlightenment of the fourth sword art in sword stone. In a flash, 3,000 years have passed. In these 3,000 years, the number of precious treasures born in the Red Cloud realm is countless. Even the strongest precious treasures have been born, a total of 3. However, these 3 strongest treasures were all just attacking the magic soldier, and were finally obtained by 3 different masters. As for the Lord of Time and Space and the Lord of the Heavens and the Alliance, in the 3,000 years, each of the top treasures got 1, but the strongest treasure did not. This is also their bad luck. The 3 born were the strongest treasures, and only 1 was born on the 6th continent of Zhejian Alliance, but the place of birth was extremely far away from the place of Xianshan Alliance. But when the Xianshan Alliance arrived, the strongest treasure has already fallen into the hands of a terrible high-level master, and it is natural that the Lord of the Sky can no longer compete. In these 3,000 years, the 3rd continent seemed relatively calm, and no strongest treasure was born. It was only the peak of the highest treasure that was born. Although it also caused fierce battles, it did not reach the battle between the powerful and the dead. To the point. As for Jian Wushuang, in the past 3,000 years, he has been staying in front of the sword stone, and has been studying the 4th sword technique contained in that sword stone so as to perfect his protection of the earth. After more than 3,000 years of enlightenment, his understanding of Kendo has been improved, and the origin of Kendo universe can be more. The most important thing is the protection of the earth. With his continuous improvement and finally reached its limit. Almost. Under Jianshi, Jian Wushuang's eyes have opened again. After more than 3,000 years of enlightenment, countless deductions in my mind, I have already perfected the trick of guardian of the earth, to the extreme that I can achieve now. Even if the sword technique contained in this sword stone is to me it's still unpredictable, but I see NT continue to improve. Jian Wushuang secretly said. In the deduction of the protection of the earth, he has indeed reached the extreme. If you want to make further progress and continue to improve, it is very difficult to rely on the sword technique in the sword stone. He must first improve his understanding of Kendo. As the Kendo understanding becomes higher and higher, can continue to improve. But we must know that Jian Wushuang's current understanding of Kendo is actually very high, and has long exceeded the normal level of domination. Based on this foundation, the protection of the earth, the sword of the encouraging body, has been deduced to the extreme. How defensive will this sword be? Jian Wushuang did not know, but he had a bottom. At least the average elementary, even the high master, could not defeat him in this sword. As for whether the top dominator can be defeated directly, it is unknown. Before me, although swordplay was pretty good, but all I was good at was attacking and killing swordplay. If I met a strong man with similar strength, swordplay like me could occupy some advantages, but if I encountered that kind of strength, I, the mighty one who is far above me, will not be of much use to my sword skills. But now, with the trick of guarding the earth, even if I meet a strong person whose power is far above me, although I can't beat him, the other party wants to completely crush me, I'm afraid it's not so easy now. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. After 3,000 years of enlightenment under this sword stone, it seems that his strength has not been much improved, but in fact, these 3,000 years of enlightenment have made him perfect the trick of guarding the earth, which makes his sword skills become more perfect than before. In the future he can attack and defend with swordsmanship. Whether he encounters similar strengths or meets stronger ones, he can handle them. This gain is even more rare than his ability to make progress. I have to thank those who left words on this sword stone. Jian Wushuang looked at the sword stone in front of him. On the sword stone, the 4 huge golden characters exude an extremely ancient and special atmosphere. Each of the 4 golden characters contains an inscrutable sword technique. For more than 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang has only comprehended one of them, that is, the sword of body protection. But in fact, the other 3 attack swordsmanship are equally incomparable, but unfortunately Jian Wushuang did not intend to continue enlightenment. I have been enlightened under this sword stone for so many years, and I have already harvested enough. I should also be satisfied. The Red Cloud Realm has only been opened for 10,000 years after all. I have to stay in this Red Cloud Realm for the rest of the time. Breakthrough. Jian Wushuang chuckled. If he was outside and had enough time, he wouldn't mind continuing to enlighten. But here is, after all, in the Red Cloud Realm, there are many opportunities in the Red Cloud Realm, but not only this kind of sword stone. Jian Wushuang naturally cannot spend all the time on the enlightenment of swordsmanship in this sword stone. Leave it. Jian Wushuang stood up, looked at the sword stone at last, and then immediately turned to leave. But he just turned around. A majestic breath suddenly burst out from the surrounding void. This breath of treasure is so powerful that it sweeps all directions almost instantly. In this huge world, time began to tremble. Remember the first domain name in this book. 3 heads of mobile version reading URL, M. Chapter 37-34? Second more. The sudden outbreak of the treasure atmosphere naturally attracted Jian Wushuang for the first time, as well as the masters of nearly 100 rules of Kendo who came to enlighten Kendo before this sword stone. Suddenly, all the rulers of the hundreds rose up. Jian Wushuang also looked up, looking at the source of the most precious breath. It was very close to where he was, very close. With the willful release of his soul power, he instantly covered a 100,000-mile radius, but less than 50,000 miles directly in front of him. The source of the treasure breath, Jian Wushuang saw a heavy appearance in the center of the earth. There was a huge blood-colored vortex, and in that blood-colored vortex, there were a pair of dark-colored moran wings, which were slowly extending out. Wings? Flying class treasure? And this breath. Even if it was Jian Wushuang, when you felt the precious breath from the black wings and the great movement around it, you could no longer suppress the inner shock and surprise. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang immediately burst out at the fastest speed, rushing towards the location of the black wing. Not only him, but at the same time, the hundreds of rulers who had come to enlighten Kendo before this sword stone all swarmed towards the location of the black wings like a wasp. However, Jian Wushuang's speed was obviously much faster than the general rule, and soon he came to the void around the huge blood swirl. And he was also the first person to come here. Standing in the void around the blood swirl, Jian Wushuang's eyes were like electricity, staring at the black wings slowly emerging from the blood swirl, his body trembling with excitement. Sure enough, it really is the strongest treasure. The sword Wushuang held both hands fiercely. The strongest cosmic treasure, but also a flying treasure like the wings? You should know that among all cosmic treasures, the value of this treasure is naturally different because the role of each species is different. One of the strongest cosmic treasures is undoubtedly enough to cause the masters to frantically compete. And one of the most powerful universe arcana warframe is enough to make many masters crazy, regardless of it. But now, the black wings that emerged from the vortex appearing in front of the sword without double sides are obviously one of the strongest flying treasures. Flying class. On the value, it is even higher than Arcana Warframe, and it can be comparable to the strongest domain Arcana. Such a treasure, if not born in this red cloud world, but placed elsewhere in this star field, is enough to cause a sensation throughout the star field. I am the first person to come around this black wing, but unfortunately, this wing has not yet been completely born. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. In this world of red clouds, the birth of Jibao requires a certain period of time to brew. And this black wing is the strongest flying class treasure, and it is not unexpected that it will be born longer. Although he is the first to arrive here now, I'm afraid it won't be long before a large number of strong men arrive. Anyway, we must find a way to get this wing. Jian Wu's eyes were hot, and he immediately came up with a summons order. Cut the sky, time and space. I have the strongest flying class Jibao born here, and it is just around me. I was the first to arrive at the scene of Jibao born. Jian Wushuang rumored. What? The strongest flying class treasure? The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Space and Time immediately shook. After the shock, there was an unprecedented ecstasy. Jian Tianho, the strongest flying treasure is even more precious than the strongest treasure, and if you can get such a treasure, then the 3 of us can be regarded as a worthwhile trip in this red cloud world. Now, you have to find a way to get the strongest flying class treasure. The Celestial Alliance leader excited. Yes, the strongest flying treasure is too important. If you have one of these treasures in the future, your life-saving ability will definitely be upgraded to a whole new level. Even if the Lord of the Devil Star arrives in person in the future, it may not be I have the absolute certainty to kill you. The Lord of Time and Space was also very excited. I know, but this flying class, the strongest treasure, is so precious. It will certainly be extremely fierce when I compete for it. I don't know if I can get it. Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. It is not that he is not confident. But the strongest flying class treasure is too precious, enough to cause the masters to lose their minds, let alone the masters of those rules. And the strongest flying class Jibao must have been born for a long time, coupled with the large movements, it must attract more powerful people. The dominant power on this third continent will probably be alarmed. In this environment, it is really not easy to get the strongest flying treasure. Besides, even if he is lucky he can really keep the strongest flying class treasure and can really keep it, it is still a question. No matter what, you first try to get the flying strongest treasure, and I and Jitian will come to your third continent at the fastest speed. Jitian is farther away from you and may be a bit more diffused, but in my case, it can be reached in half a day. Okay. The sword has no double focus. The master of Space-Time Palace Sword Wushuang knows about time and space. If he is by his side, at least he will be more convenient to escape. Of course, all this is empty talk now. After all, the Black Wings have not really been born and he has not really got the Black Wings. At this moment, attracted by the movement of the birth of the Black Feathers, more than 200 strong men rushed to the periphery of this vortex. The main reason is that the place where the Black Feathers were born was too close to the Sword Stone. The Black Feathers were born and the news spread out. Almost all the rulers of the rule below the Sword Stone arrived. When they arrived, they naturally saw the level of the Black Wings for the first time. The strongest treasure, this breath is definitely the strongest treasure. Black Wings, this is the strongest flying treasure. The strongest treasure is still an extremely rare flying class. Around the bloody vortex, the masters of more than 200 rules have all turned red. Under those red eyes, the desire and madness were all entrained. At the same time, the rulers of these rules immediately conveyed this matter to the powerful men who can reach the fastest speed on this third continent. For a time, the entire third continent and even the entire Red Cloud realm shook completely. I recommend a very good book for everyone, meticulously written. I am not an ordinary person. Be sure to remember to read it, wonderful, cannot miss it. Remember the first domain name in this book. 3 heads of mobile version reading URL, M. Chapter 37-35? The first is here. The strongest treasure is precious. The strongest flying treasure is even more crazy. When I learned that the strongest flying class was born, many of the strongest people on this third continent were crazy. Countless powerful people, including those who rushed on the third continent, dominated, regardless of the distance from the place of birth or the nearest, quickly rushed over. For a while, the vortex had become the focus of the entire Red Cloud world. The speed at which the Black Feathers were born was too slow. Although Jian Wushuang was the first to arrive at this birthplace, as time passed, when the Black Wings broke out of the vortex by 2/3, there were already more than 500 strong men gathered around. More than 500 people, although all rulers are difficult to pose a threat to Jian Wushuang, but the number of them is there, and Jian Wushuang cannot be completely ignored. Moreover, the Black Wing has not yet been completely born, and there is still a steady stream of powerful people arriving from all sides. Although Jian Wushuang is only a ruler, there is no doubt that he is definitely the focus of all rulers present. The Lord of the Blood Sword. Damn, the Lord of the Blood Sword is here, and now it's very difficult for us to fight for the Black Wings. Well, even if the Lord of the Blood Sword is as powerful as the Lord, he will definitely not be able to get the Black Wings later. Every now and then strange eyes glance from the sword Wushuangshan from time to time. There are more than 500 rulers who are present at the scene, and their strengths are strong and weak. But everyone knows that Sword Wushuang is the most terrifying existence among them. After the Black Wings are completely born, they will be the biggest threat to the rulers. The Lord of these rules is very vigilant to me. Jian Wushuang noticed those eyes around him, and his eyes couldn't help narrowing. No way before fighting with Hitomi to make him famous. Now everyone knows that his combat power can be comparable to that of the Master, or even a higher Master, which is by no means comparable to the rule of the Master. Under the premise that everyone present is only the ruler, and no one has dominated the scene, he is naturally the most noticeable. It will be some time before the birth of that wing, although more powerful people will come here during this time, but if all the rulers come, and there is no one who dominates the class, then this Black Wings I'm sure I can get my hands. I'm afraid I will be dominated by the master. Jian Wushuang frowned secretly. The ruler of the rule, unless it can burst out of the general dominating power in a short time like the Emperor Tutu, there is no more worry. Jian Wushuang is not worried. The ruler of these rules cannot stop him now. But it would be different if a dominating powerhouse was present. Okay. The sword has no sudden change of color on both sides. Damn, what are you afraid of? Jian Wushuang looked up and looked to the side of the void. The power of his soul had sensed an extremely powerful breath, and was coming at a terrible speed. Only momentarily appeared around the vortex. A golden figure slowly emerged. This is a tall man wearing a golden armor, boots, and a golden axe behind him. The tall man's narrow eyes had a faint golden light in his eyes. When he came to the periphery of the blood swirl, he looked at the Black Wings that were slowly breaking out from the core of the blood swirl. A trace of fanaticism. Axe. Dominated by the axe. He even came. The rulers around them saw a commotion immediately when they saw the people. Countless glances came at this golden figure, most of them with fear and awe. Dominated by the axe in this star domain, he is also a high-profile master with great fame and strength. He is also a leader of one side of the power. I was just worried about the presence of a dominating powerhouse, and as a result, one came immediately and was still a high master. Watching the dominating axe dominate, the sword has no two-sided color sinking slightly. A high master is already qualified to stop him. Not to mention that it is for the treasure. Even if it is a fierce battle, he has no absolute confidence that he can surpass the long-established bull axe in front of him. You know, the axe master has the name because his axe is extremely overbearing and terrifying, and the power is also extremely arrogant. It seems my luck is pretty good. I live in this third continent, and there are as many as 6 or 7 people, and I was the first one to arrive at the place where this flying strongest treasure was born. The power of the master's soul also sweeps the surrounding void, and no other master's breath is sensed. However, although the master did not have a breath that could not be ignored, he still had one. Is this the kid, the Lord of the Blood Sword? The dominator's gaze stared at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang also looked at him. The two eyes collided, faintly generating electricity in the void, but that's it. That Black Wing hasn't really been born yet, and there are so many rulers around, it is naturally impossible for them to fight first. I heard that the Lord of the Blood Sword defeated Hitomi in the front, and forced Hitomi to run away. It is somewhat capable, but then Hitomi is just an elementary master, but I am different. The Lord of the Blood Sword, I hope you won't block my way later, otherwise. Baak sneered. He didn't know that the sword is unparalleled at the moment, and he had the same thought in his heart. The Black Wing that is about to be freed from the vortex is the strongest flying treasure. For this treasure, Jian Wushuang is also determined to obtain it. Even if the dominant axe dominated the scene, Jian Wushuang will not have the slightest fear and will fight for it later. The dominant axe dominates his way, and Jian Wushuang will even draw his sword. At the bottom of the vortex, the black feathers have been exposed, and they will soon be completely born. And there are more than 700 rulers gathered here at this moment, and some of them are amazingly famous and powerful. Fortunately, in addition to dominating the axe dominance, there is no second dominance. Beside the blood-colored vortex, the eyes of more than 700 strong men stared at the bottom of the vortex, staring at the Black Wings. So everyone is waiting for the complete birth of the Black Wings. Finally, the last part of the Black Wing was freed from the swirl, and the whole Black Wing rose completely. At the same time, the breath of the strongest treasure was also swept away instantly. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqin God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Dear, click in and give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that a beautiful wife was found at the end of the new score. Chapter 37-36? Second more. Born. At the moment when the Black Wing was completely freed from the vortex, more than 700 strong men were shaken around the vortex. Follow up. The crowds of figures moved almost at the same time. Hurry up. The strongest flying class is mine. Whoever dares to stop me will kill anyone. For this wing, fight. More than 700 rulers on the field madly rushed towards the center of the vortex, that is, the Black Wings. Everyone burst out at their fastest speed, hoping that they would be the first to reach the Black Wing and put the Black Wing in the ring. As for the sword unparalleled and the dominating axe on that side, it naturally moved for the first time. Jian Wushuang cast the shadowless puppet technique, and the strongest speed erupts completely. And at the moment he left. Magic Sand Realm. With a big wave of the sword, the endless black mad sand rolled up frantically, and in the blink of an eye, a huge black sand sea formed, covering the entire sky and the void. The void that is more than 10,000 miles away, including the most central vortex, is covered by black sand and sea, and naturally includes those rulers who rushed towards the Black Wings the first time. The terrible Magic Sand Realm was oppressed, and the speed of all rulers who were present at the scene was greatly weakened. Peak in the top field. It is the Magic Sand Realm of the Blood Sword Master. Damn, the suppression in this area is too strong. Those rulers were trapped in the realm of magic sand, and their speed decreased sharply, and their faces changed greatly. There are a few rulers who also take out the realm of treasure in their hands for the first time in an attempt to resist the impact of the Magic Sand Realm. But we must know that the masters of these rules are the strongest in the 6 realms. What treasures can they have? It's not bad to have a top-class field treasure, but such a treasure facing Jian Wushuang's magic sand field does not have much resistance. As always, it is crushed and impacted. They still couldn't get back to their peak speed. However, among the many compulsions on the field, the only one that is not affected by the sword Wushuang magic sand field is dominated by the axe. The axe dominates, is the master, and is also a leader of one of the forces. He has many treasures in his hands. Although in the strongest treasure, there is only a golden axe in his hand, which can be the highest peak. He is almost all types of yes, he is also the owner of Pinnacle. I saw the vast blue sea of fire sweeping wildly, forming a blue sea of fire around the dominance of the dominating axe. This blue sea of fire released a terrifying atmosphere, colliding with the crazy impact of the black quicksand field cast by Jian Wushuang. For a while, there was no way to distinguish between strength and weakness. And because of the resistance of the blue sea of fire, the dominator's body was not subject to any oppression, and as the master, his speed was scary. At least, faster than Jian Wushuang. Not good. The sword has no double-sided color suddenly changed. He also found that he is not as fast as this dominating axe. Now the two of them are rushing towards the Black Wings from almost the same distance at the same time, but if the dominating axe is not obstructed by anything else, he will definitely rush to the Black Wings before him. And once the Black Wings fell into the hands of the dominating axe, it was too difficult to get it. Humph. Jian Wu's eyes narrowed, and Huang Quan's Excalibur behind him instantly emerged. The icy black divine sword released the strongest treasure of Sen Lung. The divine power of the sword unparalleled erupted instantly, and the magical power of life and the sky-cutting technique were also performed immediately. Even the share of the willpower given by the laws of the universe, Jian Wushuang did not use the slightest reservation at this moment. Spark burning sun. There was a flash of fierceness in Jian Wu's eyes. Wow. I saw a violent Jianguang who cut through the void in an instant, carrying the terrible power of earth-shattering, and beheaded at a faster speed towards the Lord of Naha axe. Want to stop me? Dominating the domineering axe, he naturally saw the sword light cut, but there was a slight disdain between his eyebrows. I saw the surging divine power rising to the sky in an instant. The figure of this dominating axe was almost in front of the Black Wings, and the palms of his left hands had been stretched out. Seeing that the Black Wings would be brought into the ring at this moment, he didn't choose to retract his palm to face the sword of Jian Wushuang. Instead, the left hand continued to collect the Black Wings, while the right hand pulled out the golden axe behind him and waved at the sword light. Wow. A terrible axe, when it waved, caused a harsh sound explosion in the space. It's as if heaven and earth can't withstand the power of this axe, and it will be split directly by this axe. The higher master, raising his hand and throwing his feet, is shocking. Even though the domineering axe is not the strongest axe at this moment, the power is still extremely powerful, and it is reasonable to be able to repel the face even if it faces a primary master. However, the axe dominator is facing the sword strongest who burst out with the strongest strength at the moment. Ha! Only a sound of roar from a distance sounded, and the terror was mad like a tide. The axe dominates the left palm of the hand is less than 3 meters away from the Black Wings. Such a short distance makes the axe dominate the face of the axe. He thought that the black feathers were his own aspirations. But in vain. A horrible power passed from the giant axe in his hand. What? The axe dominated his face and his eyes were full of astonishment. At this moment he felt the horrible power which not only directly changed the direction of his big axe, but also acted on his deity for the first time, causing an overbearing extreme impact. The surface of the dominating axe dominates the body armor of the highest treasure, and in addition his own body is extremely arrogant. Such shocks will hardly cause damage to his body. However, although he would not be injured, the impact of such a force on his body still caused his body to fly involuntarily. Do not. The dominating axe gave a loud drink seeing that the black wings were about to fall into his hands, but as a result, his figure was getting farther and farther from the black wings. He was directly blasted back by the sword of warrior sword, although it was not far away, but when he regained his stature and decided to continue to snatch, sword warrior had already taken a step ahead of him before the black wings. With a wave of his hand, the black wings were put into the ring of Chen Kun directly. It's here. In Jianhu's eyes, there was a surge of excitement and ecstasy that could not be concealed. Chapter 37:37? The first is here. The black wings have already arrived, and although this battle is still going on, the next thing is much easier for Jianghu Shuang. And the rulers who flocked around, saw with their own eyes that Jianghu Shuang put the black wings into the ring, and all of them suddenly became scarlet. That wing fell into the hands of the Lord of the Blood Sword? Well, whether he is the Lord of the Blood Sword or not, dare to grab the wings and die. Kill him. The masters of these rules kill one by one. If the masters of these rules see Jianghu Shuang in normal days, it must be a retreat without hesitation, and they dare not have a little bit of thought. But at this moment it is different. The rulers of these rules have been dazzled by the strongest flying treasure. Not to mention that only the ruler of the sword, Wu Shuang, is standing in front of them, and even if it is a real top master, they will probably shoot without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. I saw an overwhelming offensive that erupted at the same time. There are more than 700 rulers around, and at least half of them are now directly shooting at the sword unparalleled. The sky's offensive, including sword light, sword shadow, long whip, and mountains directly oppressed, etc., are all frontal attacks. There are also some masters of the rules who have used special attack methods or mysteries, such as some soul attacks, illusions, and some strange mystery effects. In short, Jianghu Shuang is now completely reduced to the focus of attack by everyone present. So many, and all kinds of offensives swept from all directions. Even if they dominate the ranks, they dare not have the slightest bite. Although Jian Shuang's strength is strong, he cannot withstand the attacks of so many people at the same time. Boom. I saw a lot of mighty impact on Jianghu Shuang's body without being hindered. Jianghu Shuang is covered by violent power. But only for a moment. Humph. A cold hum, accompanied by Sen Lung's Jiangguang, directly wiped out all the power in front of him, and Jianghu Shuang's figure also stepped out of that vast power. Not dead. So many of us attacked at the same time and failed to kill him, and it looks like he hasn't been hurt much? So what, if we continue to shoot? I don't believe in the ruler of every other rule, can really block so many of us. The masters of these rules who were fainted by greed were ready to take the second round. But Jianhu's eyes were suddenly cold. You guys, look for death. The sword unparalleled killing intention burst, the right hand Huangquan divine sword pointed forward in front of the void, and the mighty divine power burst out instantly. Jianhu? Icy sword shadow swept straight out. This sword shadow looked very thin, and it didn't seem to have much power. But after being pulled out, it was suddenly broken directly. From the original sword shadow, it turned into hundreds of thousands in a short time, only a small sword shadow the size of a silver needle. These tiny sword shadows scattered from the top void. It was as if there was a sudden sword rain between heaven and earth. The speed of this sword rain is extremely fast, so that the rulers directly in front of Jianghu Shuang have no time to respond, and these small sword shadows have been submerged in the body of these rulers one after another. The void ahead stopped suddenly. There are more than 80 rulers in this void, but at this moment the rulers are all staring wide, their eyes full of panic. The next moment, in addition to the 80 rulers, in addition to the two strongest of the 6 realms, who continued to stand there, the others fell silently toward the ground below. They fell to the spot and never stood up again. Under one sword, nearly 80 rulers died on the spot. Frightened, shocked. The rulers present were numb with scalp when they saw this scene. Originally came from the sword towards Wu Shuang insanely, but at the moment all the masters of the rules around him stopped. Although they were dazzled by the strongest flying treasure in a short time, they were by no means an idiot and a fool. They also feel scared and feel scared. Like the scene in front of them, it made them all creepy. Just one sword killing nearly 80 rulers in an instant? What is this concept? You know, the masters of these rules only add up to more than 700 people. The sword Wushuangjiai's sword killed nearly 80 people. Doesn't it mean that he only needs 10 swords to almost all the masters of these rules present? Beheaded? How is this possible? The power of a sword is so terrible. Monster, the Lord of the Blood Sword is a monster at all, and we even wanted the treasure from his hands? Isn't this to death? The masters of these rules roared their heads, and their madness and longing for the strongest flying treasure were gradually suppressed by reason. Indeed, the treasure is good, but it also needs to have the life to take it. And Sword Wushuang naturally also looked at the changes in the eyes of the rulers of the surrounding rules and expressions, and he could see that the ruler of these rules had been shocked by the sword he just had. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang's heart breathed a sigh of relief. Although the master of these rules, it is difficult to pose a threat to him. Even if he really slaughtered recklessly with the sword rain he just cast, he could easily kill all the masters of these rules. But if he did, there would be too many offenders. There are more than 700 rulers. These rulers come from various forces, from various astral realms, and some are still behind some big forces, all slaughtered at once. I am afraid he will immediately become the public enemy of this star domain. Although he is not afraid of himself, he will be involved in the horoscope. And now, the rulers of these rules are all deterred by their sword. Novel. Without the idea of continuing to fight, it is naturally the best. Fortunately, when I first enlightened under the Jinqian monument, I thought that I might face a siege in the future, and I created this sword rain style. I am afraid that the deterrent effect is not as strong as it is now. Jian Wushuang muttered. The Jinyu style was created when he enlightened under the Jinqian monument. This sword is not too mysterious. The reason why it can kill nearly 80 rulers at one time is mainly because Jian Wushuang's perception of Kendo is too high now, and his own divine power is too strong. These strengths the master of the general rule, it is difficult to survive under the sword rain. But anyone who is strong like the two extremes of the 6 realms, can still save his life in the face of this move. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Dear, click in and give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that a beautiful wife was found at the end of the new score. Chapter 37-38? Second more. With one stroke of sword rain, nearly 80 rulers were killed, and the sword unparalleled deterred all rulers present. Of course, this one does not include the domineering master. Boy, hand over the wings. With a roar, the domineering axe in the golden armor was holding the huge axe alone, but the whole body suddenly skyrocketed. Originally only the size of a normal human being, at best it can only be regarded as a relatively large domineering axe, but it turned into a 10-meter-tall golden giant in an instant. This golden giant exudes a mighty momentum, and his body is so aspirational, as if the killing came out of hell. Demon-like. He stepped out one after another, each step trampled on the void, and if the horrible power outside the void, it would be immediately burst by the trample. In just a few steps, the golden demon transformed by the dominating axe had appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, and the huge golden axe in his hand was also cut off in a mighty manner. Wow! With one axe cut out, the huge towering golden axe shadow seems to divide the world into two. The suffocating horror emanated from the shadow of the golden axe, causing the rulers of many surroundings to change color. Sword without double-sided color is also sinking. He could ignore the ruler of all rules present, but he did not dare to ignore this axe master. After all, this is a real high-powered master. Humph! The sword Wushuang snorted, and the magical power of life and the sky-cutting technique were cast instantly. The will power given by the laws of the universe also instantly triggered to the extreme. Spark burning sun. With endless violent sword light, it was cut out instantly and collided directly with the huge golden axe shadow that came from the mighty wave. A loud noise from the clang shook the world. The rulers who watched the battle all felt a sting in their ears, and at the same time, the terrible power swept madly from where the two powers collided. Wow! Endless divine power destroys everything around it. Some of the rulers who are relatively close to each other are affected by this horrible divine power because they are less able to dodge. Almost instantly their body is annihilated, crushed and disappeared directly into the world. In this scene, everyone took a breath of air. Retreat. Rewind. Just the aftermath, you can easily destroy the ruler of the 6 realms of void. What a terrifying power. It's terrible. The fierce battle at the higher level of is not something I can wait for. Those rulers all retreated to the distance and out of the battlefield. Although they still held a great deal of enthusiasm for the black feathers, even if they were killed at this moment, they did not dare to break into the horrible battlefield in front of them. After all, although treasures are good, they are not as important as life. And in the middle of that battlefield, the The two figures were separated again. Jianwu's eyes were cold, staring at the dominating axe in front of him. The dominating axe dominated his eyes slightly. Good boy, I heard that you defeated Hitomi in the front and forced Hitomi to run away. Everyone said that you already have a high mastery of combat power, but I haven't taken it seriously, but now I really fight it, even if it is. I also have to admit that you do have the high power dominance. Even in the high power dominance, you are no less weak than me, at least on the power of frontal fighting, said the axe master. Dominated by the axe, as the name suggests, he is extremely domineering. His strongest is also attack, extremely domineering, extremely aggressive attack. But just now he tried his best to hit the axe with Jianwu Shuang. As a result, he didn't have a slight advantage. This immediately made him understand that Jianwu Shuang was not weaker than him in attack. Domineering axe, that wing has already fallen into my hands. You want to get it unless it kills me, but do you think you can do it with your strength? Jianwu Shuang sneered. Ha, I can't kill you, but since the black wings have fallen into your hands, then you don't want to leave so easily. The axe dominated the domineering Wu Shuang and drank sharply. The Lord of the Blood Sword, pick up him axe. Banging. The world shook and the axe dominated his hands and simultaneously raised the golden axe in his hand. In a moment of time, it was a mighty one again, exuding a suffocating axe, and the swords were rolled against each other. The sword has no double-sided color change. One-on-one he didn't have any fear of dominating the axe. He even did his best to fight it. He tried his best to suppress the axe. However, he just got the black wings, but he didn't have time to tangle with the dominating axe. The strongest flying class was born and the movement was too big. The entire third continent and even the entire Red Cloud realm were shaken. For the rest of the continent, it is estimated that on the third continent, all the strong are coming here. Even if there is only one dominating axe in front of him, if it is a long time, I am afraid that there will be a second. It was the third master who came to the scene, and it was also a big trouble for him. I can't entangle this domineering axe master. I have to find a way to leave before I say. Jianwu Shuang knew very clearly. He didn't fight at all, he just wanted to leave. The dominating axe naturally saw his intentions. Ha, Lord of the Blood Sword, do you want to go? How easy is that? The dominating axe gave a low drink, and in the course of fighting against Jianwu Shuang, he suddenly turned over and took out a small pyramid. This pyramid exudes an extremely rich and precious atmosphere. The pinnacle of repression? The two-sided color of the sword suddenly changed. At the beginning of the world, suppress everything. The axe dominated the cold eyes, and threw the pyramid in his hand directly into the void above. Suddenly, a splendid golden light burst out from the pyramid, and the pyramid was infinitely enlarged in the sight of everyone present. A layer of hazy golden light also swept towards the surroundings, covering for hundreds of thousands of miles. These hundreds of thousands of miles are covered by this pyramid. Sword Wushuang is naturally covered by this pyramid. Haha, Lord of the Blood Sword, you can't escape. My golden tower is the pinnacle of suppression. I use it to suppress the magic array. Short in time, even the top masters can't be broken. It is impossible for you to escape from this repression. Axe-dominated sneer. The sword has no double-sided color and becomes ugly. The power of his soul swept away, and he could also feel the arrogance of the repressive method released by the pyramid. As the master of the axe said, in a short time he could not break the repressive method, and naturally can't leave from here. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3739. The first is more. The Lord of the Blood Sword, don't surrender the black wings, you don't want to leave. The axe master snarled. Axe, you may be too high on yourself even if you have the highest peak of repression? Even if I can't leave, how can you kill me with your help? Jianwu's eyes were cold, his face was cold. No fear at all. He just didn't want to be too troublesome, so he wanted to leave the first time. But now that he can't do without it, he has nothing to fear. It's not easy to kill him in this starfield by means of life-saving means. Then try it. The axe master is too lazy to fight with Sword Wushuang. The golden demon he transformed is rushing, the golden axe in his hands is huge, and he is rushing towards the Sword Wushuang madly. Jianwu Shuang also met directly. Revealing all strength, even the sword power that the will power given by the law of the universe has fully evoked, the combat power has increased, and the basic divine power is much stronger than the general higher masters. With sword skills he has no fear fight with the axe to dominate the front. Even during the fight he still had a slight upper hand. Only a low and terrible roar and impact sounded continuously. The fierce battle between the two was dark. The masters of the many rules watching the surroundings have long been terrified. The Lord of the Blood Sword is so powerful and terrible. It's terrible. The ruler of a rule thought he could possess a high-level dominance is incredible, but did not expect that his strength is stronger than the previous rumors, dominated by the axe. He is strong and he is axe-dominated and good at fighting, but he fights with the Lord of the Blood Sword but falls into the wind. The Lord of the Blood Sword, in terms of frontal fighting ability, is even slightly better than the Dominator. The rulers were all amazed. While Jianghu Shuang and the axe dominated the crazy fight together, there was still a steady stream of strong rushers around. The suppression of the axe dominated by the axe, although it suppresses everything around, making Jianghu Shuang unable to leave, but it does not prevent people from coming outside. So as time passed, more and more powerful men came to this void. After these powerful men arrived, they immediately saw the terrible level in the middle of the battlefield. Frightened, these new rulers quickly figured out what happened, knowing that the strongest flying treasure was in the sword without hands. The strongest flying class treasure is in the hands of the Lord of the Blood Sword? What are you waiting for, everyone? Why don't you wait for me to kill the Blood Sword Master, and then look at each other's ability to compete for the strongest flying class? If the masters of so many of our rules join forces, even if they are the masters, they have to retreat. Someone suggested. Shoot together, kill the Lord of the Blood Sword? As soon as this proposal was issued, someone immediately sneered and said, "Go to you, and forgot to tell you just now, the Lord of the Blood Sword killed nearly 80 rulers with one sword." What? Those who had just arrived in this void rule were immediately taken aback. One sword killed nearly 80 rulers? This was immediately confirmed because too many people saw it at the time. With such a result, these new rulers are also much quieter, and no ruler has ever thought about it. Of course, Jianghu Shuang's one sword slayed the record of nearly 80 rulers. Although they can deter many rulers, they can't deter the powerful ones. In addition to the overwhelming axe who rushed to the fierce battle with Jianghu Shuang at the beginning, soon the second dominating powerhouse also arrived in this void. And the second master arrived, or Jianghu Shuang's acquaintance. It was exactly 3,000 years ago that he fought against Jianghu Shuang, and those who were defeated by Jianghu Shuang could only flee away and lost all their faces. The Lord of the Blood Sword. As soon as Master Tong came to this void, the faintly red eyes immediately locked in towards Jianghu Shuang. On the way, he already learned that the strongest flying class treasure was in the hands of Jianghu Shuang, and now Jianghu Shuang is fighting with the axe to dominate the madness. The occupation in front made Master Tong understand at a glance. Dominating a person with the axe alone is impossible, and it is impossible for him to surrender the black wings. Without hesitation, Hitomi went straight forward. "Domineering axe, you and I join forces and teach this little boy who knows nothing about heaven and earth," Tongzhu whispered. "Okay." The axe master nodded. "This boy is extremely strong, and his frontal killing ability is not even weaker than me, but no matter how strong he is only a ruler, and his body protection ability should not be strong. You assisted me from the side and killed him at the first opportunity." "Okay." Hitomi focused his head. They all understand that it is almost impossible for Jianghu Shuang to surrender the wings in his hands. In this case, it is only possible to find a way to kill Jianghu Shuang. Although Jianghu Shuang's strength is very strong, after all he is only a ruler, and his life-saving ability should not be as good as the normal master, which also allows them to see the hope of the sword. Rumble. Endless clouds of blood rolled. The turbulent waves of waves came towards the sword without pressure. Hitomi also shot directly, and as soon as he shot, he did his best. He had fought fiercely against Jianghu Shuang, and he knew that Jianghu Shuang's strength was definitely better than him. Does Hitomi? Jianwu's eyes narrowed and he glanced at Tongzhu, still not afraid. He is not at all concerned by a single axe. Even if a pupil is added now, he is still not qualified to threaten him. What about the two together? Even if the two masters join forces with his current strength, it is still enough to compete positively and even suppress both of them. Boom. Jianghu Shuang shot with all his strength. Not only did his own power burst into the extreme, most importantly, his swordplay finally broke out. You know, in the understanding of Kendo, he stepped into the origin of the universe of the sword very early, but most of the masters never reached this step. Later, after a long period of time, especially after more than 5,000 years of enlightenment under the Jintian Monument, and more than 3,000 years of research in that sword stone, his understanding of Kendo is getting higher and higher. He, in the origin of the Kendo universe, is really getting started. This kind of Kendo understanding has long surpassed the normal higher masters a lot. Even if they are top masters, I am afraid that only a few can reach him. And Kendo's understanding is so high that his accomplishments in swordplay are naturally high. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiuqian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.